My name is Junia Calder. I am 33 years old, and I am a certified public accountant, which means I knew exactly what $152,000 looked like on the day my mother decided it belonged to my sister. It was a Wednesday in October. I was at my desk, reconciling a client's filings, when my mother's name lit up my phone. Her voice bright as a marching band. We went ahead and added Paisley to the account. Sweetheart. So she can finally get her start. I watched the cursor blink on my screen. Then said, "Funny. I emptied it 3 weeks ago. There's $8.50 left." What none of them knew was that the money was never the real wound. The real wound was a single page with a doctor's signature on it. From a doctor who never wrote a word of it. What my family did next put my own mother across a table from a fraud detective. And put me in front of a choice I would not wish on anyone. To understand that phone call, you have to go back to April. I live alone in a small brick duplex in a quiet corner of Beaverton, Oregon, with an orange tabby named Denver and a spice rack organized alphabetically. I do taxes and audits for a living. Not glamorous work, but it bought me a steady, quiet life. I earned every bit of a scholarship. Years of waiting tables at night. An entry-level desk job. 11 years of showing up before sunrise. In my family. Though, my job title was never accountant. It was the responsible one. When my sister's car loan needed a cosigner, guess whose name went on the paperwork? When her yoga membership started billing my card. A temporary favor, she said. It stayed temporary for over a year. I paid. I fixed. I smoothed things over. And told myself that was love. Nobody thanks you for being the responsible one. Because your responsibility gets treated like the weather. My mother called me her anchor. And I never once noticed that anchors get left behind on the ocean floor while everyone else sails on. The account started with my grandmother. Nana Opal was the one person in my family who ever really saw me for exactly who I was. When I was 8, my grandfather's small life insurance policy paid out. And Nana took $5,000 of it and opened a custodial investment account in my name. My mother was listed as the custodian. Since Nana did not trust paperwork she could not fold and put in a drawer. Her hand rested on my shoulder like a clothespin. "This is for the one who counts every penny," she said. "One day they will all count on you. Honey, just make sure you still have something left for yourself." At 21, the account transferred fully into my name, as the law requires. Worth roughly $11,000 by then. I treated it like a garden. $300 a month at first. Then $500 once I was promoted. 11 years of automatic transfers into boring, faithful index funds. Straight through every market panic. By that October, it sat at $152,000. It was my retirement. And proof that a girl who grew up on tip money could build something real. But in my mother's mouth, it never had my name on it. She called it the family cushion. Light as a joke. Every single time. Once I corrected her, "It is my retirement account." "Mom," I said. She laughed the way you laugh at a toddler who says something adorable and completely wrong. Family does not keep score. "Honey," I remember thinking it was a sweet old saying. I had not yet done the math on what it actually cost me. Now let me tell you about my sister. Paisley is 28. And for a full decade, she has been perpetually about to find her calling. First a candle-making studio, which my parents covered the lease on until it folded within a year. Then a life coaching certification. $4,000. Paid from my mother's savings, which produced exactly one paying client. Our own aunt. Then a jewelry line that never shipped. Then a podcast that recorded 3 episodes and never posted one. Every chapter began with a family dinner where Paisley glowed with a new dream. and ended with a quiet transfer of somebody else's money. She lives in my parents' finished basement, in a room my father built when she was 30 days from eviction. I want to be fair, because fair is the whole job. Paisley is not cruel. She is what happens when nobody ever lets a person hit the ground and learn where the ground actually is. That October, the new dream was a plant and wellness boutique, complete with a logo, sage green, a sprig of eucalyptus curling around the letter P. Nobody mentioned money out loud, which in my family is exactly how you know money is the only real subject on the table. Then my mother texted Sunday dinner. 6 o'clock. Family business to discuss. I sat in my parked car and read that message 3 times, feeling my stomach do the thing it does during an audit when the numbers are about to go sideways. In my family business had only ever meant one thing: my wallet. The good tablecloth was already out when I arrived, which told me the ask would be large. My mother waited until dessert, then folded her hands. "We have been talking," she said, and the "we" did not include me. "Paisley's boutique needs $60,000. And honey, your investment account is just sitting there." She said it the way you would say a ladder is just sitting in the garage. She even knew the balance. Near enough, because I had listed the account on a family asset worksheet years earlier. One tidy line I had regretted writing down ever since. I set down my fork. "That account is my retirement." "Mom," I said, "it started with Nana's money." "The answer is no. But I am happy to help Paisley put together a real business plan." The silence that followed you could have balanced a spoon on. My mother smiled at me. Soft, disappointed, endlessly patient. "Junia," she said, "family does not keep score." For the first time in my life, I heard the fine print buried inside that sentence. I said no 3 more times before I left. Driving home, I told myself it was settled. But at the door, my mother squeezed my hand and said, "We will figure something out." She was not asking anymore. The weeks after that dinner were quiet, which should have been my first warning. Because my family does not do quiet after a no. Instead, my mother got suddenly curious about my health, calling to ask if I was sleeping, if work was stressing me, if I still saw my doctor. Then Paisley texted, asking if I still had the folder from our family paperwork day. "Mom wants to update the file," she wrote. "Individually. Small change. Added together. A discrepancy." That night I pulled my personal file box down from the closet and went through it with a highlighter, the way I would audit a client under suspicion. There, in the estate planning folder, was a document I had signed years earlier and mostly forgotten. The pages felt strangely warm under my fingers. The original was not in my box. It lived in my mother's house, in the filing cabinet in her hallway. And I did not yet let myself think about why that mattered. The call came on a Tuesday night while I was washing 1 plate and 1 fork. I missed it. What I got instead was a voicemail, 4 minutes long, pocket dialed from my mother's own kitchen. I stood at the counter and listened to pans clattering. Then my mother's voice, casual as a grocery list, talking to my sister. "Once we are on the account, the boutique deposit goes out first," she said. "Then we will see about the rest." Paisley's voice, smaller. "What if she finds out?" My mother, with no more weight than a weather forecast. "By then it is done. Honey, she will be angry. Then she will get over it. She always does." I played it twice. The second time, I was not listening for the plan anymore. I was listening to that last line. She always does. My entire job description in this family, printed on a 4-minute voicemail. Get angry. Get over it. Get billed. I want to be precise about what I felt. Because it was not rage. Rage is hot. This was the cold that comes off a ledger that finally balances after years of forced errors. My best friend from college, Priya Chandran, happens to be an estate attorney. Over coffee, I let her hear the voicemail. This recording is a warning, not a case, she said. Wanting to get onto an account is not itself a crime. Then how would they actually do it? I asked. It is an individual account. My name only. Priya thought a moment. Junia, after your grandmother's stroke. What exactly did your family have you sign? The coffee shop got very loud and very far away. Years earlier, after Nana Opal's first stroke, the whole family had done the responsible thing: wills, healthcare directives, and a springing power of attorney. A document that stays dormant unless a doctor certifies me incapacitated. The moment it wakes, my named agent can act on my finances as if she were me. My agent. Chosen when the word felt like a formality, my mother. Renata Calder. Thursday morning, I signed a formal revocation in front of a notary and mailed certified copies to the original attorney and to Harborview Financial, the brokerage that had held my account since Nana opened it. I executed a new power of attorney naming Priya, changed every password, and set up alerts on every login. Airtight. Except Priya called back with the part no textbook mentions. The revocation is valid the moment you sign it, she said. But Harborview is a machine. Documents sit in a queue before a human indexes them. If someone walks in first with the old power of attorney and a doctor's letter claiming you are incapacitated, the firm freezes everything while it sorts out the conflict. And you would be the one proving you are competent. I sat with that. My grandmother's seed money. Frozen while my own family argued I was too broken to speak for myself. There was exactly one way to make my account not worth stealing. Empty it myself. People imagine that cashing out $152,000 feels like a heist movie. It feels like homework. I spent a weekend at my kitchen table with a spreadsheet. Because I do not do anything angry that I cannot also do accurately: which positions to sell, which tax lots to pick so the hit landed as softly as possible, what the capital gains would cost me. Call it the price of a fireproof life. Monday, I opened a new account at a different brokerage, titled in my name alone, with a fresh email address and two-factor authentication on everything. Tuesday night, with Denver asleep on the chair beside me, I pulled up the sell orders. All of it. Every faithful index fund I had fed since I was 21. My cursor hovered over confirm. And I will be honest about the one moment I hesitated. It was not the taxes and it was not fear of my mother. It was that, clicking that button meant admitting, in writing, that my own family had become weather I needed shelter from. I heard Nana Opal's voice then. Make sure you still have something left. I clicked. The screen blinked once. Polite as a bank teller order received. The following days were the strangest of my life. Silent and deafening at once. Harborview's fraud desk actually called during the second batch of transfers. A courteous man reading from a script. Verifying identity. Yes, I said. This is Junia. I authorize it. I cannot describe what those words felt like after weeks of learning my own mother was assembling paperwork to say I was not competent to speak them at all. On the very last transfer, I did something no spreadsheet suggested. I did not zero the account out completely. I typed a figure that left exactly $8.50 behind. Down to the cent. A signature only two people alive could ever read. Why $8.50? And not zero. Some debts never make it onto a bank statement. And I had been the only one keeping those particular books. I was 14 the summer I learned the actual house rules, though nobody ever posted them on the refrigerator. I babysat the neighbor's twins that whole July. And by the end of it, I had earned exactly enough for a movie ticket and popcorn with my two best friends. $8.50. Saved in an envelope. Counted so many times the paper had gone soft. The Friday of the movie. The envelope was empty. Paisley was 9. She had found it, taken all of it, and spent it on accessories for a doll she already had a shoebox full of. I cried and demanded justice. My mother knelt down, gathered thief and victim into the same hug, and delivered the verdict that would quietly run my life for the next 20 years. Sisters share. Junia. Family does not keep score. Nobody drove me to the movies. Nobody ever paid me back. It is such a small story, and that is exactly why I am telling it. Because the big betrayals never arrive first. They are the small ones. Compounding like interest, nobody ever audits. So, when I emptied that account down to the last transfer, I left my family precisely what my family had once left me. What happened next? I reconstructed later. From documents and timestamps. From the fraud file that would eventually carry my name as the reporting party. A package arrived at Harborview. Sent overnight. Professionally assembled the old power of attorney bearing my real, notarized signature. And behind it, a letter on medical letterhead from Ash Street Family Medicine. My own doctor's practice. Or something wearing its face. The letter stated that the patient, Junia Rose Calder, was suffering from a major depressive episode with cognitive impairment, that she presented as high-functioning but was unable to manage her financial affairs, and that activation of her durable power of attorney was medically appropriate. It was dated the very week my mother had been asking about my sleep and my doctor. Attached was a cover sheet requesting that Harborview recognize Renata Calder as acting agent and add Paisley immediately. So the family could, in the letter's own words, manage the situation with discretion. The letterhead was correct. The margins were correct. The clinical language ran as smooth as tap water. My mother spent 17 years behind the front desk of a medical office before she retired, printing referral letters just like it. I am not saying anything more than that. I am simply showing you the ledger. The first ripple was an automated email from Harborview. Gray as gravel. Priya's advice was unglamorous but firm. Do not call them again. Do not explain yourself. Everything happens in writing now. If that package is what we think it is. The next call will not be from customer service. It was a Tuesday. Mid-morning. When my mother called, bright as a parade. Triumphant and tender at once. Genuinely believing she was delivering good news. Sweetheart, it is done, she said. We added Paisley so she can access the 152. The boutique deposit goes out Friday. One day you will thank me. I gave her the number the way I would give it to any client. Funny. I cashed it all out weeks ago. There is $8.50 left. The silence had furniture in it. No, she said. No. You cannot do that. That is the family cushion. It never was. Mom, I said. Ask Nana's paperwork. In the background. Paisley's voice rose like a kettle she's lying. Check the app. And farther back. My father Renata. In that low, useless way. A man patting down a fire with a dish towel. My mother's voice came back shaking. And here is the part I need you to sit with. Because I have sat with it for months. She did not say we are sorry. She did not say we were wrong. She said, how could you do this to your sister? I ended the call the way you close a client file. Told them I loved them. And set the phone face down. My hands stayed steady until they did not. 2 days later, a detective named Karen Voss called from the district's Economic Crimes Unit. When a power of attorney package claims a client is incapacitated, Harborview's compliance team verifies. A specialist had called Ash Street Family Medicine to confirm the letter. Standard practice. Except the practice had no record of it. No such letter had ever been written. No such assessment had ever been made. The signature did not match the doctor's own. The package had been forwarded to the fraud unit that same afternoon. "Do you recognize the parties who submitted this package?" she asked. And there it was. The question with my entire family folded inside it. "Yes," I said. The submitting party was my mother. The added party was my sister. She emailed me the scan an hour later. "I want to tell you what it is like to read a document that erases you. Written by people who taught you how to read in the first place." My full name: Junia Rose Calder. The Rose for Nana. Spelled out in clean clinical type. Major depressive episode with cognitive impairment. High functioning. Even my sanity. They had graded on how useful it looked from the outside. And the date caught on something and would not let go. It matched the week I brought the cake to my father's birthday dinner. The week my mother hummed and asked about my sleep. My stress. My doctor. Every one of those questions lined up like figures in a column. And the column finally summed. She had not been worrying about me. She had been drafting me. She did know the patient. She had known the patient for 33 years. This was not a stranger stealing an identity out of a mailbox. My identity had been handed over from memory. You would think a fraud file would have humbled my family into silence. Instead, they reached for the only tool left in the drawer, the story. Within a week, an aunt called syrupy with concern. "Your mother says you have been struggling. Are you eating?" a cousin texted. "Is it true? You drained your savings and cut everyone off?" The family group chat filled with my mother's posts. An old photo of me at maybe 19. Captioned, "Please keep our girl in your prayers." The exact fiction they had built to steal from me had become the alibi for having tried it. I did not respond. I am told my silence was discussed as further evidence of my condition. There is no move you can make against that game. Which is exactly why I stopped playing it. A week before my scheduled statement, my doorbell rang. My mother stood in my hallway in her good church cardigan, holding a Tupperware of soup. And for one dangerous second she simply looked like my mom. She had never once been inside my apartment in 5 years of living there. She talked about Nana Opal and summers at the lake. "Remember Junia? Before everything got so hard. It was beautiful. And it was aimed." Then she set an envelope on my table, not an apology. A job application. Front desk. A dental office. Filled out in Paisley's handwriting. "She's going to work." My mother said, "I just need you to do one thing. Tell that detective the letter was a misunderstanding. That you knew about the power of attorney. One sentence. Honey. And this all goes away. Families protect each other. Don't trade your whole family for a piece of paper." I looked at her and asked the only question I had left. "Mom, are you sorry?" She blinked. And I watched the question bounce off some inner surface and come back changed. "Sweetheart, I hate what this is doing to us. Not sorry, it is messy." I said, "Are you sorry you did it? You put a disease in my chart that I do not have? And you were going to hand my sister my life's work while I stood there certified as broken." She sat up straighter and reached for the oldest tool on her belt. "Everything I have ever done," she said, voice trembling exactly right. "I did for this family. Paisley needed a chance. You always land upright. Honey, you have since you were a baby." And I said it with her. Quiet. In unison. 33 years of harmony. Family does not keep score. Then I said the rest alone. "You're right. Mom. That is exactly why you never noticed I was the only one paying." She stood so fast the chair barked against the tile. "Then you are no daughter of mine," she said. "There are sentences you spend your whole childhood dreading. And when they finally arrive, they are almost a relief." I picked up her cup and set it gently in the sink. Then opened my front door and held it. "Drive safe." "Mum." She left the soup behind. The lock clicked. Soft as a period at the end of a very long sentence. The Economic Crimes Unit worked out of a building with all the charm of a filing cabinet, which I honestly found comforting. I signed the statement. Every page. My whole name at the end. The rose exactly where it belonged. All my life my signature had been a service. A permission slip for other people's plans. This was the first one that cost me something and belonged entirely to me. Nobody went to prison. And I never wanted that. My mother was accepted into a pre-trial diversion program. A first offense. Restitution of administrative costs. A class. And a period of staying out of trouble, after which the charge would be dismissed. She tells the relatives it was a paperwork misunderstanding I blew out of proportion. And most of them find it easier to believe her. Because believing her costs nothing. And believing me costs Christmas. Ash Street Family Medicine changed its verification procedures and now confirms every letter with a callback to the source. My sister took the front desk job at the dental office. The exact application our mother had filled out as a prop for my kitchen table. The closest thing this whole story has to a joke. My father is still in the garage with the truck. My money sits in its new account under one name. Mine. With Priya holding a power of attorney that springs only for licensed strangers who have never once called me their anchor. In the spring, Harborview closed out the old account and mailed me the balance a check for $8.50. I did not cash it. It is framed above my desk, beside a photo of Nana Opal. And on Thursday evenings it hangs there while I teach a free class at the public library on budgeting and power of attorney. To a room full of women who, sooner or later, stay after to tell me about a signature they once gave to someone they loved. I used to believe love meant being the one who always pays. Here is what I know now. In every family that insists it does not keep score, somebody is quietly keeping it for everyone else. So keep your own books. Sign nothing out of guilt. And remember that $8.50 of truth is worth more than $152,000 of buying the peace. That is my story. One forged letter. One emptied account. And $8.50 that finally got repaid in full. If this reminded you to look again at your own paperwork, your power of attorney, your named beneficiaries, the names sitting quietly on your accounts, take that as your sign to check this week. And if you know a woman in your life who has always been the responsible one, maybe send this her way.